Hey guys, so today I want to share with y'all my Mirage Archer Spiral Volley Ritualist. Now this is an extremely cool character that takes advantage of a really cool interaction between Mirage Archer and weapon swapping. So you can snapshot a weapon to your Mirage Archer and have it use that weapon, and while your character, your main character, uses another weapon. So with that, we are able to make Mirage Archer attack as fast as possible while letting our character use lightning rods to deal damage with a main damaging bow setup. So I'll explain how exactly this works later in the video, but just know that it's a really cool weapon swap interaction that really is made possible just because of the fact that we're able to weapon swap without any sort of delay this league. And while I'd like to take credit for coming up with this theory, sadly, it was not me. It was another YouTuber, a Korean YouTuber, who came up with this, and I'll link his channel in the description below. But we did do some changes and edits to it to make it kind of our own. So I would like to say that I've improved upon it and made it my own build. But walking into my character now, we are a level 96 Ritualist called Ritualist. This is my Flicker Strike character, if you guys remember, but we repurposed it for this build. We are currently stat stacking, which is why we're a Ritualist, and we are rocking 528 Intelligence, 377 Dexterity, and 243 Strength. This character doesn't have like a ton of stats, to be honest, for a stat stacker, but that's because I wanted to make sure I had enough rarity and survivability in terms of resistances, so we kind of balanced the three of those out. It can get really tough to get rarity, especially when you're trying to get the most stats as possible, so this is kind of where we're at. We are also at a very, very low 1.9k life, but that's because we are a full evasion character. Now, with full evasion characters, it's a situation where you're not dead until you're dead, because evasion, unfortunately, a lot of times just isn't the most reliable. You're gonna get hit eventually because that's how evasion works. And when you get hit, it's the job of deflect to keep you safe. But unfortunately, deflect is not 100%. So sometimes you get hit through your evasion, and then your deflect doesn't work, and you might just get one shot. Sadly, that is the state of defenses right now. And if you want to play anything but, let's say, like energy shield or armor, energy shield, evasion, right? Sadly, this is kind of the situation. Evasion just isn't in the best state right now. Of course, if you scale it super, super high, you're really good, but they kind of balanced evasion a little bit with the last patch, so it's really hard to get your evasion up above like 85, 90%. So it's really a you're not dead until you're dead type of situation. And it's just the state of the fact. And sadly, we can't really do anything else just because of where we're situated on the tree and how hard it has been to get points. Because we are playing, the full 150 plus rarity and trying to get as much movement speed as possible on this character. But, if you really wanted to make it more survivable, more tanky, you're probably going to have to give up something here or there. And that's to preface that this character is not a cheap character. This character that I have made, the version I've made at least, maximizes on movement speed and maximizes on rarity. So as a result, a lot of money has to be put into the gear. Now, you can definitely make the character for cheaper, but you'll have to give up on movement speed and probably rarity to make up for that. If you guys want me to make a cheaper version, which will probably be like a Deadeye or an Amazon, because those are probably better suited for this character, to be honest, if you're going to make the cheaper version, let me know. And also, if this video hits 500 plus likes, we'll definitely do it, right? So if we can hit that like button, that'd be great. But yeah, so this character, again, we're playing Ritualist just to do the stat stacking. You don't have to stat stack if you don't want. It's just kind of the way that I have gone upon to make the attack speed of our character as high as possible, because you do want really, really high attack speed because of how the character works. So I guess with that, let's get into how it works, right? So Mirage Archer is attached to our second weapon set, which is just basically meant to maximize on attack speed, which is why we are using a Quill Rain, which lowers our damage, and we also have a Quiver that just maximizes on as much attack speed, dexterity, accuracy as possible, right? So the reasoning for that, again, is because you can see this weapon set attacked super, super fast. So what we'll do is, on our main character, we'll drop down lightning rods, right? And then we'll swap to our second weapon set and then roll. And then that will let our Mirage Archer come out, and it will keep the attack speed of the second weapon set while shooting at the enemy who is positioned right here on the rods, right? And with that, the enemy will just completely blow up because the Mirage Archer is attaching super, super fast, and it's blowing up all of these lightning rods. Now, the lightning rods are doing full damage because it is attached to your main character's weapon set, while the Mirage Archer itself is on the second weapon set. So the second weapon set does no damage, and all it really is doing is proccing these lightning rods as fast as possible. But you know, don't mistake it. You do need a good bit of attack speed on your main weapon set. And to be honest, I would say that I don't even have enough attack speed. Because your Mirage Archer attacks so fast, it consumes all the lightning rods on the ground really, really quickly. So you kind of need to keep up with your Mirage Archer in order to be able to replenish the lightning rods as fast as possible. So that's kind of how the character works. We do have our tornado arrow right here, our tornado shot, attached to our second weapon set. That way, whenever we use it, which is, you know, we always do, right? We set down our rods, then we put down our tornado shot, and then we roll, right? And then that will let us take out our Mirage Archer, and then we can just swap back by shooting lightning rods again. So yeah, that's kind of how it goes. But with that, I also want to get into the main form of AoE for this character, which is Spiral Volley. That's what we use. You don't have to use Spiral Volley if you don't want to. You can really use any attack you want for this character, any bow attack, because, you know, the single target is just the Mirage Archer, right? The AoE, you can do whatever you want. And to be honest, I would say that Spiral Volley is one of the worst options. Let's just say Lightning Arrow at the end of the day is the best, but I really just want to play Spiral Volley because I like the ability, I like the skill. But as a result, we have to take all these nodes to get up here to Resonance, which wastes like a good 9 nodes to get up here. So if you don't want to play Spiral Volley, that's totally fine. Play Lightning Arrow, play Poison, play whatever you want. The AoE is really just up to you. But for this guide, we're going to go Spiral Volley, right? So Spiral Volley, we are currently using Armor Break, Armor Explosion, Defy, Adelui's Bloodletting, and Perpetual Charge. So this is basically all, you know, there's no damage abilities in here except for Adelui's, because Spiral Volley, for the most part, just does damage based off of how many frenzy charges that you have. So the more frenzy charges you have, the more damage you deal. The skills, like gems themselves, you don't really need that much. But we do use Armor Break on here because when we break armor, as per usual Spiral Volley characters, right, it gives us a chance to get endurance charges. And those endurance charges at the end of the day will turn into frenzy charges due to resonance. So that's kind of like, you know, the whole song and dance with Spiral Volley. You guys have probably seen it before, right? For our lightning rods, we are currently running Defy. We are currently running Elemental Armament, Rockiata's Flow, Deliberation, and Concentrated Area. Defy, we're using it because we have Constricting Command, and we are using the surround nodes, of course. And then on our Mirage Archer, we are currently using Lightning Arrow, which is what we use to proc the lightning rods. We have Rigwald's Ferocity for the attack speed because the Quill Rain is in weapon set 1. And then we are using Rapid Attacks, of course, to maximize attack speed. We are using Prolonged Duration to make it so that our Mirage Archer lasts longer. And then we are using Chain. Now, I'm actually kind of considering taking off Prolonged Duration because for the most part, the Mirage Archer doesn't need to be out that long anymore to be able to kill bosses. And actually, the longer duration is kind of a negative when it comes to bosses that phase quick after, you know, it phases, right? Because what you want to do ideally is you burst down the boss, and after you're done bursting, the Mirage Archer disappears and it goes on cooldown, and then it comes back up by the time the boss is done phasing. But if you have the Prolonged Duration on, if you kill the enemy quick enough, you might still have a good 3 or 4 seconds left on the Mirage Archer, and then it might not come back by the time that the boss comes, you know, starts phasing or finishes phasing, right? So depending on your DPS, you may want to take off Prolonged Duration and maybe even add the shorter duration one. We'll see though. But I still have it on right now. I'd probably, you know, again, depending on your damage, you could keep it on or off. And then we have Chain. This is to, of course, make it so that our Mirage Archer is chaining the lightning rods more. Because again, the damage of our Mirage Archer doesn't matter at all. So we can actually use Chain in here to make it hit these rods a lot more often. Now, next up, we have Tornado Shot. This is what we drop down before we unleash our Mirage Archer. And of course, Tornado Shot is locked to weapon set 1 because we only want to shoot when we are swapping over to our Mirage Archer. And then, of course, everything else is weapon set 2, right? Our Lightning Rod's weapon set 2, and then our Spiral Volley is weapon set 2. But Tornado Shot, we are using overabundance. That way we have 2 of them on the ground at once to make sure they're kicking up as many arrows as possible. We have prolonged duration, magnified area, durability so that you can hit them more times, and then you have Defy 2, of course, just for quality of life. That way when we run out of mana, we can still spam it. Now, you might be wondering, why are you using Snipe and where does it come into play? Well, Snipe is actually a little bit of a tech that I came up with because this character relies a lot on armor break for building the frenzy charges required for Spiral Volley. Now, for my Poison Spiral Volley, it wasn't that big of an issue because the poison just went through the armor and just corroded through it and just got us our frenzy charges regardless. But because this character is mostly physical damage when it comes to breaking armor, we kind of struggle with armored maps. So when we go in and have no charges, it's really hard to break their armor. Not because we're not doing enough damage to kill the monsters. We can actually kill the monsters. But the armored maps, for some reason, the armor on the monsters is so high that even after you kill the monsters, a lot of times you're not doing enough damage, it will die before the armor fully breaks. Like the armor is higher than its HP. So you need to have a really strong hit to break through all its armor before you kill it. So that's why we use Snipe. Though it's not for how you think we use it, right? Of course, we do use the Uric Smelting and also Armor Break so that when we hit the enemy, it breaks the armor and gives us a chance to get the Frenzy Charge. But mainly we use Snipe because of Perfected Endurance. So this allows you to gain an Endurance Charge, which is for our build, a Frenzy Charge when you hit an enemy with a perfectly timed snipe, right? Now, what that'll do is that will basically give us, 1 to 3, 4, however many charges that we gain on that hit. And from there, we can start Spiral Volleying, and that will make Spiral Volley do enough damage at that point to do the damage for the armor break and kill the monsters. So this is basically just for when we start off those armored maps, and it's kind of hard to get the armor break at that point, right? So we do this at the beginning of the map, get an enemy, get 1 frenzy charge at least, and then at that point, Spiral Volley is going to be strong enough to just carry us through the rest of the map. But if you do end up dropping those frenzy charges, which it may happen during the map, then you do the same thing again, do a perfectly timed snipe, and then hit the enemy, and then we'll get the charges. Either that, or you just not run the armored maps. If you don't want to run if you're okay with just not running armored maps, you could just not use this at all. So yeah, this is just a little bit of tech to help us with our Spiral Volley frenzy charges when we don't have any on these armored maps. Now, for our Spirit Gems, we are using Mirage Archer, of course, again, but we are also using Wind Dancer for more evasion, Herald of Ash, and Herald of Thunder. I would say that Herald of Ash is a little bit cosmetic. It doesn't really do a ton, but honestly, I couldn't really find anything else I really want to use here. You could probably use like Time of Need or something like that to get rid of, I guess, temporal chains whenever that hits you. But in reality, the last socket for our Spirit Gems is pretty optional. Herald of Thunder, of course, does do a good bit of damage because we are stacking stats with our Hand of Wisdom in action. So we do get quite a bit of shock, and Herald of Thunder does help with that. We are using Esha's Radiance, Elemental Armament, Elemental Focus, Long Shot, and Lightning Penetration for that. Now for Wind Dancer, we are using Heft, we are using Close Combat, Armor Break, Shock, and Blind. Now, the reason why you are using Armor Break on this is because we do a bit of physical damage, and a lot of times when an enemy hits you, you're going to want to be able to get some frenzy charges if you can, because the enemies that hit you and they die, it means that potentially you might be whiffing your Spiral Volley and not getting any frenzy charges in return. So this is another option for us to get frenzy charges whenever the enemy hits us. So yeah, you can see lots and lots of physical, lots and lots of lightning, right? Yeah, that is the skill gem setup. Now, for our equipment, we have a couple of required things and also some things that I've kind of experimented with and like, but you don't have to use that. So currently we are using quite a few uniques. Because we are a stat stacker, we are using a Hand of Wisdom in action. The more int we have, the more lightning damage we do, the more dex we have, the more attack speed we have. Both things that are beneficial to our build. Now, you can, again, not be a stat stacker if you don't want to, and just use a regular rare glove with the Essence of Horror and the 3 serious runes for attack speed. That will be very competitive in terms of attack speed compared to this character. Again, I just wanted to go stat stacker because I'm a ritualist. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But that's why we're using a Hand of Wisdom action. We use a +1 maximum frenzy charge on it because we are not running the most frenzy charges on the tree. We have a frenzy charge here, and that's about it. Unfortunately, we can't take this node because we are using a heroic tragedy here, which changes to Oaken form, and we cannot get the +2 frenzy charges there. So yeah, that's why we're using +1 frenzy charge on our glove, just to make it so our spiral volley is doing more damage. We are also using a Mirage Ire for evasion. This I'm still kind of experimenting on whether or not I like it. Before, I was using this armor, just a very, very high evasion armor with deflect on it, and that was really good. But the thing is, I was like, 79 evasion is kind of a little bit on like the lower side for me. I wanted to see how it felt with Mirage Ire, and so far, in my opinion, it's been better. It's up to you if you want to run Mirage Ire or not. You can also just run a full evasion chest armor. Mirage Ire is also a much cheaper option too, so it's up to you what you want to run. The other thing that I like about Mirage Ire is that it gives dexterity, so more attack speed, and it also gives cold damage, which means we're doing more damage, right? So in reality, Mirage Ire, I would say, is the more offensive option, and with this, you get a little bit more defenses with the additional deflect and the additional resistances. Up to you, again, what you want to use. We are, again, using Constricting Command because we are taking advantage of the surround nodes. Very, very strong, very, very meta this league. And then for our belt, we are using a Headhunter because we are a stat stacker for one, so it gives us some nice stats. I have kind of low strength and dexterity. I'll probably get a better one later on. But yeah, Headhunter, very, very good for mapping, which this build is made for. You can use an Ingenuity if you don't have a Headhunter, or you could even use a Darkness Enthroned and Move Speed runes if you really wanted to go fast and zoom, and that is also another option. The belt is very, very flexible. You don't have to use a Headhunter or not if you don't want to, but Headhunter is just really, really good for mapping, right? We're also using an Astromentus because we're a stat stacker, and we have Jack of all trades Anointed because stat stacking, again, 2% increased damage for 5 of your lowest attribute, which is strength. Lots of damage, really, really nice. Now, for our rings, we are currently running the 45% rarity ring. Well, I guess a little bit more with the implicit as well, with flats on the top and res on the bottom. That's kind of what you want for at least one ring because our resistances are pretty tight, as you can see. Even with this ring and also this ring, which has a ton of resistances, we are struggling a bit on resistances. Of course, it's a little bit better if you use a rare armor, but that's currently what we're using. Ideally, if you can, when I had the armor set up, I was probably going to, instead of using the Calandra's Touch to reflect, our resistances are actually relatively close to being capped. So I was thinking about just getting a breach ring with the required rarity, probably 45 rarity on the explicit, 45 plus, and then just getting stats on the suffix for intelligence and dexterity in order to give us more stat stacking capabilities. But right now, I don't use it because, again, we're using Mirage Ire and experimenting with it again. Maybe later on, I might swap this for a ring that looks like this, except for stats on the bottom instead of resistances. We're also using a third ring right here with more rarity, resistances, and flat damage and accuracy. If you want more attack speed, right, more accuracy is always good. But to be honest, I would say there's kind of diminishing returns with attack speed on this build. Like, I've kind of pushed attack speed a lot on this build to a point, again, where we can't even really keep up with Mirage Archer. So you don't really need to stack that much attack speed. But again, if you want more attack speed, you can get accuracy, you can get dex, things like that on your rings. But this one, again, mainly just for your survivability for resistances, and we have a little bit of damage there. I'd say the goal for rings, again, is to make up for the resistances you're lacking on the rest of your gear, and then also try to get as much rarity as possible and flat damage as possible and stats as possible. So you kind of want a lot of things, which is why, again, this build is not a cheap one. Now, as for the weapons, we are using a quiver, which is the Volant quiver. You can probably use a primed quiver as well if you want higher attack speed, but again, I'd say for our main weapon set, the priority definitely is damage first, attack speed second. And that's why we went with a Volant quiver, because the arrow speed does give us damage. So for this quiver, what you're going to want is increased bow damage, physical damage, projectile speed, projectile levels, attack speed, and if you can, get dex. Right? Dex is going to give you more attack speed. So that's kind of the ideal stats you want on your quiver. And then for our bow, we are using a Obliterator bow. Now, this bow, I would say, is okay. It's decent, not like crazy amazing. But what I like about this bow, right, and what we're looking for on our bows are a couple things. As much physical damage as possible, because Spiral Volley does rely on physical damage to break armor. You also want additional arrows. Now, again, the reason why you want additional arrows is because of lightning rods. You want to, again, keep up with your Mirage Archer. So the more rods you shoot on a single shot, the more easily you can keep up with Mirage Archer from destroying all the bolts before you can replenish them. So that's why we have +2 additional arrows, and we also have increased attack speed on ours as well. But you guys, when you're making your bows, you might even want to go with like a Gemini bow. I was actually trying to craft a Gemini bow yesterday, and we had some really good rolls, but I realized I'm too poor to craft this bow. So because it has a T1 on both of these, so I'm like, you know what, we're just going to sell this. But again, as many arrows as possible, if you can get it, and then also as much physical damage as possible and as much attack speed as possible. Your priority, of course, is damage, then arrows, then attack speed, right? Because for this build, using multi-shot for your lightning rods is like a huge damage decrease. Because not only does it decrease the damage of the rods themselves, it also reduces your attack speed, which again, you need to keep up with your Mirage Archer. So you want to have as much attack speed as possible. So it's like a double negative, which is really bad. And that's why you want the additional arrows. Again, if you can do a Gemini bow, that's even better. Or if you're a Deadeye, it'll help you out more. Again, we're a Ritualist because we want to be able to take advantage of rings and stat stacking. If you want to play it as on a Deadeye, you definitely can and might be a much more budget option. Now, getting a bow like this is not the easiest thing possible, but I actually have another bow that I would say is fairly comparable and is not a very hard craft. And that's this bow right here. This bow does not have the additional arrows, but we put the 2 runes right here, the rune of archery, onto the bow to give us those additional arrows. Basically, this one is not a deterministic craft, right? You can't guarantee everything on here, but this bow right here, you actually can deterministically craft it pretty dang easily, and I'll probably do a little short part of this video later on to show you how to craft a bow like this. This is very easy to craft and will be almost as good as this one, but you do have to give up your rune sockets to get these plus additional arrows. And these runes are also not very cheap. So while you are able to deterministically get these, if you're able to get a +2 additional arrows with relatively, similar stats, I would say you would probably prefer that over this one. That way you can get your sockets. Now, I'm using these runes for elemental damage attacks. I just realized these are not the ones that you actually want. The ones that you want for your bow are going to be these ones right here. This one, the Sakawal's Rune of the Sky. That's going to give you the most damage for this build. And I'll probably put this in after the video. Actually, we'll just buy this right now, right? We'll buy 2 of them. And then we'll slot them into the bow. So that's what you're going to want to do to maximize your damage by having those 2 runes. Your attacks gain extra damage as all elements. So that is the equipment. Again, secondary weapon set, Quill Rain, 3 sockets for attack speed, and then this one is going to be maximizing on attack speed and accuracy. The physical damage attacks, the crit damage, none of that matters. The only things you want is as high attack speed on the implicit as possible, as high attack speed on the explicit, as high accuracy, and as high dex. It's a pretty dang cheap quiver because nobody plays any quivers like this, right? So this second weapon set is going to be overall very, very cheap. Now, let's move on to the tree and the jewels. Again, we are a ritualist, so this is what we're taking. You can feel free to not take the charm slot stuff if you don't want to. You can take these last two and put it into movement speed and physical damage. That is perfectly fine as well. But I do like the charm slots because we are a fairly low HP build. So having the ignite charm is very, very nice for this. And being able to use it even when there's no charges is very helpful. So that's why I just do that. But if you want to maximize on move speed and damage, you can just go put these two instead of these two. Yeah, our tree, there is a lot going on here. We are basically going from residence all the way down here to the bottom left to get these surround nodes. So we are quite stretched. But again, the goal of this tree is to get as much attack speed as possible on our second weapon set, and then on our first weapon set, maximize as much movement speed as possible. So, and attack speed and stat stacking stuff. So that's kind of why we've taken this path. If you don't go Spiral Volley again, you can save all this and put this other way in other places. Before our jewels, we are using quite a few unique jewels, and some of these I would say are definitely required. So the first one we are taking advantage of is the Heroic Tragedy Timeless Jewel. This one is conquered by Olroth, which makes it so that our intelligence gives us evasion. So this is how we continue to push our evasion, because we are using Timeless Tragedy Jewel, or Heroic Tragedy. If we take this off, for example, we go from 83 to 77. We go from 83, which is what I think it was 55k, to 77, which is 37k, which is quite a bit lower. And if you are using not High Desire, you're even less evasion. So that's why we use the Timeless, the Heroic Tragedy, to just give us more evasion, because again, evasion builds are very much get as much as you can, because you want to try to get hit as little as possible. We are using that. We are also using a Heart of the Well. This will give us extra damage as lightning, and the extra damage as fire is just kind of like a cherry on top. You don't really need it. You can also do cold. The other thing that we want is recover maximum life on kill, because we are using Adaluis, and it is fairly expensive to our life, as you can see, especially because we have low life. So we want to be recovering life whenever we kill enemies, which is why we have the recover maximum life on kill. For this one, I would say the required is definitely extra lightning and maximum life on kill. Now, we are also using a jewel right here, which is another time loss jewel, for increased effect on the nodes, because we want to increase the effect of all of these surround nodes. And then we are also using a Against the Darkness to help us with stat stacking again. Percent intelligence, percent dexterity, and then we are using this one, and this one for our notables. If I can get to level 98, I definitely take this in the thick of it, but for now, we don't really quite have the points for that. But we're using it against the darkness here. And then for our Megalomaniac, we are using Falcon Dive and Power Conduction. So these two here are mainly just for making sure we can stretch our tree, because we use Falcon Dive to save us points. Yes, it's only 4 points, but it is definitely much necessary. And then we have Power Conduction as just like some increased effective shock, just to give us a little bit more damage, right? You can use whatever you want, whatever is cheapest for you to pick up. But really, Falcon Dive, I would say, is not like required. Again, you could even get like, you know, Falcon Technique or something like that. Just anything that'll save you points on the tree. And then for our rare jewel, you're going to want to get as much evasion rating as possible, damage, also accuracy and attack speed. That's kind of what you're going to want on your rare jewel. That is not this time lost sapphire. So yeah, that is the tree setup, and that is the jewel setup. Again, we only have one thing here for frenzy charges, because this takes over this one, unfortunately. So yeah, that's kind of the unfortunate case. If you choose not to use this, then you could probably take this for additional frenzies as well. So let's go over how to craft the bow. Ideally, you're going to start with, let's say, a Gemini bow or an Obliterator bow, and you're going to want to start with IPD, on the prefix, and then for the suffix, you're going to want to start with attack speed. This is fairly cheap. If you look on the trade site, you can get one for about 4 div, right? Very, very cheap. So that's what you're going to want to start off with. Again, this isn't going to be the bow that I use. The one that I use, sadly, it's like more random. I just bought it from somebody. But if you want to craft like a deterministic bow and don't want to spend a ton of money on it, here is a good way to do it. So IPD, and then you have attack speed. For this now, you're going to go and grab a greater essence of abrasion to add physical damage onto the bow. Now, this is going to be the whole setup here. And then you're going to go and try to fracture attack speed if you can. So you're going to go to your omens. You're going to go and get a suffix for your desecration and then desecrate the bow. Now, here we go. Attack speed suffix, you're going to try to fracture. Boom, fractured, right? Now, what this will allow you to do is for your prefix, you can go and get a increased or extra physical damage. And then from here, what you can do is you can go and get rid of this for increased, extra physical damage by going to your essences right here, looking for a dextral crystallization, perfect essence of abrasion, and then boom. Now your prefixes are all done and you have a nice high physical damage bow. Now your suffixes are also all deterministic. All you got to do is slap an exalt right here. Then you're going to go and hit it with a perfect essence of battle. That will give you your +4 attack skills. And then what you're going to do from here is you're going to desecrate for an Ulamon mod. So you're going to go get a, what is this? Omen of the Sovereign. And then you're going to go hit it with a desecrate. You're going to reveal it. And then you're going to pick this one right here. Projectile attacks have a percentage to fire additional projectiles while moving. Again, the reason why we do this is because we want to maximize the number of projectiles that we have on our bow. So we want to be able to shoot as many lightning rods as possible. So you're just going to shoot this while moving, and you're going to have a chance to be able to add more projectiles onto the field. So yeah, that is a very, very easy and deterministic craft that basically only costed us about 4 to 6 div, right? Very, very easy. Of course, this bow is not as good as the one that I have right here. I had to buy this one, but if you want to get a very, very deterministic one, that is a way to go. But yeah, that about wraps this video up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this build. And as per usual, if you did, please let me know down in the comments section with any questions that you have as well. And also, the sub button is the best way to support the channel, and it's completely free. So if you want to see more videos like this, hit the sub button and it'll let me know. I also stream every single night on twitch.tv/MesoXShrew, so I'd love to see you guys there. And if you have any questions, that's the best way to ask me, on top of joining my Discord, right? So there it is. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see y'all on the next one. All right, guys. Peace. Maybe I'm weird. I don't hate Mire. I don't like it. It's not my. It's not on the list of maps that I like, but like I don't hate it. Am I weird for that? Like there's like these nice little wide open areas every now and then, which is nice. Unlike like some other maps where it's just like all fucked. Which one do I hate? Sun Temple, right? Absolutely disgusting. Sun Temple is terrible. I also still hate Hidden Grotto. I still think Hidden Grotto is like one of the worst maps out there. Mine Shaft is pretty damn bad. What else is bad? Trenches, also garbage. Flotsam, also trash tier. What else I hate? Forge. Oh my god, a fucking Forge. Oh, please, Molten Forge or whatever. Molten Vault, Molten Forge, that one? Oh, disgusting. Get me the fuck out of there. That is probably next to Sun Temple by the next least favorite map. That shit sucks ass. And then there's also the one that's like, I think like, what is it called? the one with the like the one with the big boss, like, you know, Titan's Grotto boss, that one, whatever it's called, Abyss, I think it's called, also garbage. I hate that one too. And then there's also one more. The one with it's like the other, it's like the boss in Act 2 at the towers, the skeleton boss. Right? I think it's the same boss as Hidden Grotto. That one, but it's like not Hidden Grotto. That one is also really bad. Ball Factory? I don't dislike the Ball Factory. Ball Factory is actually pretty decent. I hate the monsters in Ball Factory, but the map itself is fine. Ooh, Ritual Precursor. That's one div right there. Marrow, yes, that one. Oh, that one sucks. That one sucks. But not on the top of my list for hated runs, right? But still, it's not good. I don't like it. I like this one more than Marrow. What's my favorite map to run? What is my favorite map to run? What is my favorite map to run? That's a good question. Because I know, like, on top of my head, like, what maps I like, but it's like, they're a favorite map. I mean, it used to be Fortress, but that got gutted. So, Fortress kind of left a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of a hole in my favorite map that just hasn't really been replaced yet. I mean, again, I do enjoy myself a good steaming spring. I'm definitely one of the ones. I don't think anybody ever talks about steaming springs as like when they talk about their favorite maps, but I do like steaming springs. I don't know why. I don't know why I like that map. Last league, I was a big crypt enjoyer. This league, I am less of a crypt enjoyer for some reason. I still like it, but it's not like, you know, on the top of my list anymore. I still like it, but definitely not like, you know, oh yeah, hell yeah, crypt. Oh, it's probably Ravine, I guess now. Ravine is one of my favorite ones still. Ravine is a very good one. You know what? I realized, when was the last time you guys ran a sand spit? I have not run a sand spit in probably weeks, if I ran one at all this league. Ran one yesterday? I have not seen one in a while. I have not seen a sand spit in a while. Maybe it's just my map RNG seed not doing it, but I have not ran one in a while. Who the fuck are you? Immured Fury. I think that's the thing that gives me a fracturing orb, right? Yeah, it is. Slick. Best frame rate, not bright as fuck for my Cretan gamer eyes. You see, Slick is a good map, but there was a hot minute when all these like shocked ground and stuff like that would just absolutely fry your eyes out.